Hi guys, thanks for tuning into the channel. This will be the part one of putting together how to buy a Royal Enfield, or more importantly a Classic 500. So if you're interested in one of those particular bikes, might be worth your trouble to watch it. So what I'm planning on doing is we're going to be discussing Royal Enfield Classic 500s from 2009 up to 2020. So what I plan on doing is breaking them up into three sections, and I'm going to call it, for a bit of ease on my side and maybe yours too, Series 1, 2 and 3. Now there is no such series when you talk about Royal Enfields. They just come in whatever year, all the way through. But I'll break it up into three so we know things are a little bit easier to check out the differences. So first up, from the Series 1 bike, so it's easier to pick from the other bikes, I'll put some photos up here now. So if you look at the front forks on a Series 1, you'll notice that the forks are offset. So this one here, this is offset. We'll go to Series 2 now, and Series 2's got straight forks. Now another way you'll pick a Series 1 bike is the Series 1 will have a 18-inch front wheel, 18-inch back wheel. It'll also, depending if it's a 2009 or 10, it'll have maybe the Kickstarter or it won't. But they're the three things to look at. So offset front forks 1, 18-inch wheels front and back, and no Kickstart. But take into account they did put the Kickstart on them in a matter of 6 or 12 months from the original one, and some of them got a Kickstart, so that's out. So when we swing to Series 2, you've got in that case a 19-inch front wheel, an 18-inch rear wheel, and the rake's been sort of varied a little bit on the Series 2 bike. So that's the main thing. If you went up there and had a look at it and just had a look at the front forks, well, there's no offset front forks, they're just straight. And you've got the 19-inch front wheel, 18-inch rear. So then if we go to Series 3, the big moves on that one was one, it was fitted as standard as dual-channel non-switchable ABS brakes. So it's got a rear disc, and it's also got a different swing arm. And apart from that, it's running a 16-tooth sprocket front, instead of 17 like the other bikes. So apart from that, that's about what we'll be looking at when we look at these three series. Then when we go further into the buyer guide, which will be in part 2, when I go into more detail about each one of these three series of bikes, I'll talk about a few things where you may be aware of or you may not be aware of, but the three things that come to mind when I look at Enfields is 1, the bikes that had handling issues, and number 2, the bikes which had problems with rear wheel lockup. So there are two things there to straight off that you may be aware of or you may not. And number 3 would be bikes that have managed to get frame cracks in them. So these aren't sort of run-of-the-mill stuff, you're not going to pick them up everywhere. And, they're sort of scattered, few and far between. But the fact is, considering how many bikes are out there, there's probably quite a few that have got them. And it's the best idea is to look into it on these tips I'm going to give up on the next series, or the next clip I should say, when I go into a bit more detail, and it'll give you somewhere to look at. If you go into to look at a bike and you're going to buy one for sale, well, you can walk straight over and say, oh yeah, that's your Series 1 you're talking about, or that's where to look for in case I've got a frame crack in it. And naturally, if you go there, buyer's not going to tell you if there's anything wrong with them. They're there to sell a bike, they're not there to be your friend. So if you keep that in mind, what we'll do is look into these ones here, and we'll go through it thoroughly, so you'll be able to go in there and know be a bit of confidence, and you'll know exactly what to buy and whether or not it's a good buy, and whether or not you walk away happy or rush in there, see the first bike you see, don't take much notice, and you go from there. So, for example, just a quick one here now. Do you know that if you have bought a Classic 500 that never had a Kickstart, and the guy said to you, for example, you said to him, oh, I wish it had a Kickstart, and he said, oh, you only have to get the parts and put it on it, it only cost you a couple $100 to buy the parts? Well, that may be the case, and you might be able to buy it for a couple of $100, but I don't know, at this stage, I still don't know anyone that's ever been able to put a Kickstart on the first model that came out. And the reason being, it's not as simple as what you think. First off, the motor has to come straight out of the frame, then the motor has to be split, and then they've got to go in there, and you've got to go in there and put all the parts in there before you even get to the part where your Kickstarter work. So, you could be looking at a couple of $1,000 to put that Kickstart on that bike, and in that case, you wouldn't waste your money on it. You'd go straight to another one there that already had the Kickstart in place. So that's something for you to think about. So once again, this is only a quickie just to see what it is. I'm fairly happy out of first one go. I said to you I'd do the series if enough people come in and sub to the channel. I think I got 10 subs, so I can't complain. So I'll give it a hit anyway. So once again, thanks for tuning in, take a look, catch you later.